welcome back to the Beast Game podcast. And today we're talking about the first Omen. How many Omens have there been, James?
I think six.
So there's been 6 Omens, and first one was when, like the 70s or something?
Yeah, I think 77, maybe.
Whole bunch of movies, but this one is technically a prequel to the first movie. This one is called The First Omen. The other one is technically The First Omen. Directed by Kasha Stevens. Been doing a lot of TV stuff, like TV miniseries stuff. The writers are Tim Smith. Looks like they've worked on the same stuff,
They have a working relationship.
kind of production buddies. The other person, who is Keith Thomas, had done that Firestarter remake.
Ah,
And they had also directed a movie called The Vigil. A man providing overnight watch to a deceased member of his Orthodox Jewish community finds himself opposite a malevolent entity in writer director Keith Thomas's electrifying feature debut. Moving on, it stars Nell Tiger Free. Okay. And,
that's her name.
yeah.
What?
Plays Margaret, the main character. Ralph Ineson and Sonia Braga, and the synopsis is: a young American woman is sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church, but encounters a darkness that causes her to question her faith and uncovers a terrifying conspiracy that hopes to bring about the birth of evil incarnate. Basically, the first few minutes, there's two priests that meet. One is Charles Dance from Game of Thrones fame, Final Destination tragic event type thing. So they're just talking, and there's going to be an installation, stained glass windows, and something snaps as far as the stained glass windows. Glass comes down. Both of them try to take cover, and they look at each other. It's like, hey, are you okay? And are you okay? So Charles Dance, the other father, he has a big gash in the back of his head. And then it shoots to Noel, Tiger Free, Margaret begins to stay at the nunnery, and she meets another nun who's basically around the same age. So they're all like maybe 20-ish, mid-20s. And this other one, she's a little loose. Jesus don't like that.
And that was throwing us off. It's like, these are nuns. They out here.
Yeah, the
on
twerking.
clubs.
Yeah, taking the wine, having a couple drinks with that, having sex. And I'm like, yo, what is this? Like,
We weren't sure we were watching the right movie.
The other nun that she's close with, they begin to form a bond, but then there's something kind of dark with this other nun. But talk to a horror expert, the person that just wants to let you know that Main Event JO is now in your city. It's just me, Oos.
Oh.
Jay, Jay, how do you feel about the first Omen?
I thought maybe I missed some parts. We're thrown off by the nuns out there partying, drinking, smoking, all this in the club. And I'm assuming these are like, well, they were young nuns, but I guess they were like, they weren't officially nuns, but they were.
Yeah, they're nuns in training, I guess.
Yeah.
Apprentice
So,
nuns.
but still, even with them being nuns in training, I think you still follow the guidelines because you're
Yeah, like you get there somehow. This is the first day of training camp or something.
right. So that threw us off one. And then there was a lot of misdirection. They kept focusing, I guess, one of the girls that was in the school.
Yeah, the other nun that kind of looks like the same as the main character. You were trying to figure. I was like,
is that the same girl?
Yeah,
they look very, very similar. They were focusing on her a little bit too much because at the beginning of the movie they stated that there was a girl that was born and they're supposed to give birth to the Antichrist. Maybe 20, 30 minutes into the movie, I was like, this is a misdirection.
Mhm.
Like, it's not her. They're focusing too much on her. It is the main character, the nun in training, that is supposed to be the mother.
Horror expert had already figured out the movie.
Right. So I was right. The reason why I said that is because throughout the whole movie, they didn't really give you a reason why the girl was the one. I'm not talking about the nun in training. They didn't give you a reason. It's just like they pointed there. Just said, well, I just see things and all that. But the nun in training was the one that was going through it. She was seeing visions. She was being attacked in the street. I mean, but no one else saw it. Like she was being fondled by some demon. She saw I think an abortion happened in the convent.
Yeah, so the nuns may or may not have been performing dissecting the demon babies.
Right. So it was just like she was experiencing everything. I was like, yeah, she's the one. And she was. The movie was just all over the good enough to keep me interested on what the hell was going on. It just seemed like it was just all over. It didn't have a rhyme or reason on why things were happening. Just happening. That's my opinion.
Bit confused, and obviously horror is not necessarily my strong suit, but one, the movie's dark. Two,
Yeah.
the two leads look the same to make out what was going on, and then the nature of the story and the way that it was just told. You're supposed to be a nun. You were doing everything except for being a nun.
Even the nuns that were nuns, they was out there talking reckless.
You're showing too much ankle.
They were talking reckless. They were talking about a mailman being hot and all this other stuff. I'm like, whoa, wait, hey, don't get me wrong. I know
you're humans,
but come on now. Take a vow, but they weren't curtailing anything. They were proud about them being out there.
Yeah, but the final, I guess, act of the movie for me was just a little confusing. And again,
it was like a fever dream, man.
Yeah, Jay had already figured it out, but there was just like a whole bunch of panting and hyperventilating from main character because at some point she's possessed or she's about to have a baby or
she was impregnated. I must have missed it. Or maybe it happened in the street when she was just following herself.
Yeah, and it's like a whole bunch of holding your stomach and hearing that just for like 30 minutes. I'm like, yo, I'm about to a little happy. Another reason. But it was just a lot of panting and ranting, and the other father that survived the pane of glass falling down comes back into play and trying to figure out what his role is in all this and trust him, then doesn't trust him, then trusts him again, and then the final act is Demon Baby. Again, it's supposed to set up the OG Omen, and
I don't understand how that worked.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie. I understand what goes on and who the characters are. And they mentioned Damien, and I'm just like, okay, what is the point of this movie?
That's the thing that confuses me because if you watch the first Omen, Damien was the Antichrist. In this one, she's giving birth to the Antichrist. So how was Damien the Antichrist? That's not Damien.
Captain Savanun had said something about her parents, and they've been trying to protect her. I don't know. Last maybe 30 minutes or so was a little confusing for me, and I just couldn't necessarily pick up on everything that was going on. Jay, what score would you give the first Omen? I'm about to say the first Nun. Like all these movies are the same. What was that other movie with the nuns? One that had the handyman. Which one was that one?
The handyman, the nun.
Okay, so
it's called the Nun. The superhero theme. Every time he did something heroic, like,
and all the nuns were like, "Oh yeah, he's hot. Like I want him to pull up my skirt." So,
right.
What score would you give the first Omen?
Quite sure that I may have missed a lot, like a 5, because it was just all over the place, and because the movie was really, really dark. Certain things that you thought you saw, you didn't see, and certain things that you probably should have seen, you couldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
So that threw me off. And I understand setting the tone because about horror is all about setting the tone. So you have to set the tone to get people there. Could have been paced a little bit better. Took some time just to get to the meat and potatoes of what was going on. I would say pace better. I ain't gonna say explain. I'm not gonna say that because you shouldn't always have to force feed people, but it should be something that it could be really picked up.
I guess for me, it just felt disconnected from anything the Omen. I mean, there's a lot of these horror movies. So again, we watched The Nun, and The Nun, some spinoff of which one of the movies?
Conjuring.
James Wan! Felt like that movie and this movie just kind of merged, and I'm just sitting there like, I'm remembering back to The Nun. And there was another one like this. Like, I'm going to be generous and give this a 5. Again, horror's
not better. Could have been better, man.
Horror's not my strong suit. Felt that the lead actress, the Nell, like whatever her name is, that whole panting for the whole movie. I mean, she's freaking out, like whether it's just she's seeing something, the same kind of panting and hyperventilating for almost an hour and a half is annoying. So I'm like, you should have been able to do something. Then she's passing out, then she's waking up, then she's passing out again, and then she trusts people and doesn't trust people. That back and forth that I think for me made the movie not enjoyable. I probably would never watch this again. I haven't seen the Omen, the OG Omen, I guess, first Omen like, in a while. So just anything connecting to that doesn't work. I guess in Hollywood, people are running out of ideas, and the idea we can make a prequel, we can make a spinoff of something.
But then keep my interest to be like, oh man, this is good. It was more so like, all right, I'm already here. Let's just figure out what the hell's going on.
That is main event Jo, the horror aficionado, beater of demons.
Beater of demons. Oh man.
Beast Game Podcast.